till those dogs pulled down the first ram. They killed Saul. And the second ram arose and led the little sheep as David. And those sheep grew and multiplied, but all the dogs and foxes and wild beasts feared and fled before it. And the ram butted and killed the wild beasts. And those wild beasts had no longer any power among the sheep, and robbed them no more aught. And David consolidated the whole kingdom from the river Nile to the river Euphrates. And he was ruthless on his enemies. And those wild beasts no longer had any power among the sheep, and robbed them no more. And that ram begat many sheep, and fell asleep, he died. And little sheep begat ram in its stead, and became a prince and leader of those sheep, Solomon. And the house became great and broad, and it was built for those sheep, and a tower lofty and great was built on the house for the Lord of the sheep. Solomon built the great temple to the Lord, Solomon's temple. And the house was low, but the tower was elevated and lofty. And the Lord of the sheep stood on that tower, and they offered a full table before him, sacrifice. And again I saw those sheep, that they again erred and went many ways, and forsook that their house. And the Lord of the sheep called some from amongst the sheep, and he sent after Solomon. They started to backslide and worship idols, Baal and Ashtoreth again, the ancient occult religion. And God sent different prophets to them to try to get them straight. And the kings became wicked. And God pretty much let the enemies have their way with them for a while. Lord of the sheep called some from amongst the sheep, and sent them to the sheep, but the sheep began to slay them. God sent prophets, and they killed some of the prophets. And one of them was saved and was not slain. And it sped away and cried aloud over the sheep, and they sought to slay it. But the Lord of the sheep saved it from the sheep. More likely Elijah. To slay it. But the Lord of the sheep saved it, and Jezebel wanted to kill Elijah, Ahab, and Jezebel. And brought it up to me, and caused it to dwell there. Elijah was caught up in a chariot of fire, like Enoch. Enoch said, like me. He didn't see death either. He was carried up and translated just like me. And I saw when they forsook the house of the Lord. After that, I saw when they forsook the house of the Lord and his tower. Well, let me read that part again. But the Lord of the sheep saved it from the sheep, and brought it up to me, and caused it to dwell there. And many other sheep he sent to those sheep, to testify unto them and lament over them. God sent many prophets. Elisha was after Elijah. There was other prophets after them. There was all the prophets of the Old Testament, pretty much. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel he's talking about. Daniel. They was in captivity by that time, trying to get around to Daniel and Ezekiel. He sent those sheep to testify to them and lament over them. And after that I saw that when they forsook the house of the Lord and his tower, they fell away entirely. And their eyes were blinded. God blinded Zedekiah the king, the last king of the Jews, and Nebuchadnezzar killed his sons before he killed his sons before he blinded and put his eyes out, and he was brought in chains into Jerusalem and killed. And he gave them over to the hands of the lions and the tigers and wolves and hyenas, Nebuchadnezzar. And the Assyrians took away the 10 tribes of Israel to the north, and Babylon took away Judah to the south. There's two kingdoms. And I saw that he forsook their house and their tower. God let it be burnt and desolate because of the sin. And he took them into bondage for 70 years. And I saw that they had forsook their house, their tower, and gave them all into the land of the lions. Lions is Babylon. To tear and to devour them into the hand of all the wild beasts. And I began to cry aloud. Remember, this is his descendants. And I began to cry aloud with all my power, and to appeal to the Lord of the sheep, and to represent him in regard of the sheep, that they were devoured by all the wild beasts. But he remained. God's pissed. He remained unmoved, though he saw it, and rejoiced that they were devoured. God said in the Old Testament, I'm going to laugh at your calamity when it comes up on you. See, once God turns off on you, he becomes your enemy. And he can be pretty cold. He said, my spirit will not always strive with men. So you don't want to take him for granted. And I saw it and rejoiced that they were devoured and swallowed and robbed, and left them to be devoured in the land of all the beasts. And he called 70 shepherds and cast those sheep to them, that they might pasture them. And he spake to the shepherds and their companions, let each individual of you pasture the sheep henceforward, and everything that I will command you that ye do. 60, and I will deliver them over to you, duly numbered, and I will deliver them unto you, duly numbered, and tell you which of them are to be destroyed. Them destroy ye. And he gave over unto them those sheep. And he called another and spake unto him, observe and mark everything that the shepherds will do to those sheep, for they will destroy every excess. They will destroy more of them than I have commanded them. And every excess and the destruction which will be wrought through those shepherds record namely, and many they destroy according to my command, and how many according to their own. Capiche? Understand? How many according to their own? Capiche? And how many record each and every individual shepherd all the destruction he effects, and read out before me by number how many they destroy and how many they deliver over for destruction, that I may have this as a testimony against them, and know every deed of the shepherds, that I may comprehend and see what to do, whether or not they abide by my command which I have commanded them. But they shall not know it, and thou shalt not declare it unto them, nor admonish them, but only record against each individual all the destruction which the shepherds effect, each in his time, and lay it before me. God said, I'm going to let them kill them, and I gave them a quota, and if they go over it, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to deal with it and judge them for it. They shall not know it, and shall not declare it to them, nor admonish them, but only record against each individual all the destruction which the shepherds effect in his time, and lay it all before me. And I saw till those shepherds pastured in their season, and began to slay and destroy more than they were bidden. It was overkill. And they delivered those sheep into the hands of the lions, and the lions and the tigers ate and devoured the great part of those sheep, and the wild boars ate along with them. And they burnt that tower and demolished that house. They burnt the temple down and destroyed the wall. The tower was on the wall. and became exceedingly sorrowful over that tower, because the house of the sheep was demolished. And afterwards I was unable to see if those sheep entered the house. So he didn't let him see the rebuilding under Nehemiah as he went back and rebuilt the temple. Started the process, rebuilding the wall and the temple. And the shepherds and their associates delivered over those sheep to all the wild beasts to devour them. And each of them received in his time a definite number. And it was written by another in a book how each one of them destroyed them. And each one slew and destroyed many more that was prescribed. And I began to weep and lament on the account of those sheep. And thus in a vision I saw that one who wrote how he wrote down every one that was destroyed by those shepherds day by day, and carried up and laid down and showed actually the whole book to the Lord of the sheep. God recorded all the excess killing so they could be punished of everything they had done, and each of them had made away with, and all. See, God sees everything. He's not going to get away with anything. He's got his surveillance system that's unmatched. The devil's trying to be a copycat. You're not even close. God sees it all, reads the thoughts of the heart as well. And carried up and laid down and showed actually the whole book to the Lord of the sheep, even everything that they had done, and all that each of them had made away with, and all that they had given over to destruction. And the book was read before the Lord of sheep, and he took the book from his hand and read it and sealed it and laid it down. And forthwith I saw how the shepherds pastured for 12 hours, and behold, 3 of those sheep turned back and came and entered and began to build up all that had fallen down of the house. But the wild boars tried to hinder them. That's Nehemiah, or where Haggai. First it started out with Haggai and some of those minor prophets in the Bible, Pastor Hosea, and then you got into Nehemiah and Malachi and all those guys. But they were not able, and they began again to build as before, and they reared up the tower, and it was named a high tower, and they began again to place a table before the tower. But all the bread on it was polluted and not pure, the table of presence, the showbread table. God said it was corrupt. And as touching all this, the eyes of those sheep were blinded, so that they saw not. And the eyes of their shepherds light, and became corrupt again. And they became not wise, and they delivered them in large numbers to the shepherds for destruction. And they trampled the sheep with their feet. God would send forth various enemies and local enemies, the Philistines, all them type of people. He'd use different enemies to destroy them. Numbers of their shepherds for destruction, and they trampled the sheep with their feet and devoured them. And the Lord of the sheep remained unmoved till all the sheep were dispersed over the field, and mingled with them the beast. And they, the shepherds, did not save them out of the hand of the beast. And this one who wrote the book carried it up and showed it and read it before the Lord of the sheep, and implored him on their account, and besought him on their account, as he showed him all the doings of the shepherds, and gave testimony before him against all the shepherds. And he took the actual book and laid it down before him and departed. Okay, we'll take a break. Be right back.